So this beautiful looking camera right here is the Hasselblad X2D, and after using this camera for the last few weeks, I have a couple thoughts. Let's talk about it. And big thank you to Professional Photographers of America for sponsoring today's video. Join the community of 35,000 photographers and find equipment insurance and business tools for photographers just like you and me. So this beautiful chunk of metal in front of me is the Hasselblad X2D, a medium format 100 megapixel camera that is just an absolute joy to use. I mean, look at that sensor right there. Oh, the camera is on. Hang on, this is gonna drive me crazy. All right, back to business. Now, if you didn't know, you don't want to open your sensor, especially a giant medium format one when the camera is on. Something about like electricity drawing in dust. Anyways, this is a camera that I'm very excited to use. If you are an OG on this channel, you remember way back in the day, I believe 2018, maybe 2019, I looked a lot different back then. I made a video about the X1D, which was the original version of this camera. I absolutely loved it. I believe the title of that video was, "This is the most insane camera I've ever used," but there were some drawbacks to that camera that made it something that wasn't necessarily practical for me, especially one of those things being the insane price tag, which is still one of the issues with this camera, unfortunately, but there's a silver lining to that we'll talk about at the end of the video. But outside of the price, my main issue with the earlier version of this camera, the X1D, was the fact that it just was somewhat slow. The autofocus was slow, the shutter was slow, and for someone like me who does a lot of street photography, move around photography, it just didn't make sense. If you're someone who does portrait photography or, landscape photography is actually another good example. Even though you don't have a lot of control, the camera is stationary for the most part, that camera would have worked. But now with the X2D, it seems like they've improved on essentially everything that I disliked about the early version and kept the insane image quality that comes with this camera. So I'm very excited to use this. Thank you to Hasselblad for sending it to me to use for a little while. I'm excited to bring it out in the spring and summer to continue working on my next book. I'm about 75% done with that body of work, and having this and the beautiful pictures that it makes is hopefully going to send that body of work over the edge, and I'll be able to release that book around October-ish is what I'm planning on right now. And with that said, there's going to be a lot more videos of me using this camera. I think I might even do some old school videos where I just get out and shoot with it and do a voiceover. We'll see about that. I have a few fun ideas planned as I work on that book in the spring and summer, so subscribe if you are not yet so you can catch those videos. Now, my first impressions of the X2D started with me doing an in-studio test. Just having the camera, something like this that's so powerful, you don't really understand how to use it, and that's actually one of my biggest pet peeves with YouTube videos is people just going out, making a video, and not actually experiencing the tool to speak on it. So I wanted to start with something basic, and I went back to my roots, which was product photography. I grabbed some sneakers that I had, made some photos around the studio, and right off the bat, the first thing that you notice is just the insane image quality. Now, the image quality isn't just megapixels. Now, having the ability to crop photos and punch in where you need to and not lose resolution is amazing, especially for something like product photography. And with the lens lineup on the Hasselblad system, there aren't a ton of lens options, so I'm shooting on what is sort of a 35-ish equivalent lens, and 35 isn't the greatest for product photography, so being able to punch into certain details and get my composition spot on was very nice. But the big thing I noticed with the image quality in this initial test is just this beautiful natural feel to the highlights and the shadows. There's this fall off that is hard to describe. I don't even know if a computer screen does it justice, but when you see the photos in person, they're just absolutely incredible. And when I was doing product photography back in the day, if I had something like this, who knows, I might still be doing that job because my work quality would be through the roof. But another quick takeaway from that test was just the incredible build quality of this camera. I mean, when you have it in hand, it just works exactly how it should work. The menu system is easy to navigate. There's not too many buttons. The buttons are easy to use. The ergonomics are amazing. It's so easy to hold. And it got me thinking, this camera might actually work for street photography. So I took it out and did a street photography photography test with it, and my suspicions were correct. Even though this is an extremely powerful camera, the form factor makes it enjoyable to use. Doing street photography with this wasn't that big of a headache, aside from the fact that the entire time I was thinking, there's like $12,000 of camera in my hand, hopefully no one steals it. But outside of that little bit of mental angst, having this camera for street photography on your person was actually very enjoyable, and being able to get those incredible photos in a street type scenario helped me produce some images that I've never been able to create before, especially this one of this stair set in Ponce City Market, which I've tried to make a million times at this point. This is hands down the best version of that photo I've ever made, and I absolutely love it. Now at this point, my cynical brain got to thinking, there's no way that this camera is perfect. So I took it out to do a low light test, thinking that the Achilles heel on this would be its low light performance, as is typically the issue with some higher megapixel count cameras, but to my surprise, this camera did a fantastic job. I took it out to a location that I'm fairly familiar with just to make sure I actually got good example images, and I really love the way all these photos came out. One note about this camera though is that it doesn't seem to recover highlights in post very well. I found myself on images that were slightly overexposed having issues bringing back those highlights, so I made sure to expose my images for the shadows once I figured that out. That's not really a negative, it's just more of an observation and something to keep in mind if you ever try out any new camera, that each sensor and each different system kind of performs differently. So don't always bank on your previous knowledge when you're using a new camera, because each one's a little bit different. Now at that point, I just became a believer of this camera, and I just went out and kept having fun with it. I made some more city photos, tried some different things, and all of the images were absolutely fantastic. The color rendering, just the general look of the images, which could be attributed slightly to the lens. The lens lineup from Hasselblad, while limited, is also incredible. Honestly, I just liked everything about this camera and everything about these images. I mean, I'm like smiling right now, kind of laughing, because this is the most overly positive first impressions video I think I've ever made on this channel, but it's that good. Now, the issue, as I've already mentioned, is the price tag, but I think there's a silver lining to this, which I want to talk about after I thank today's sponsor, Professional Photographers of America. Now, despite what photographers say, everyone has a little part of us that loves to try out new camera gear, and slowly over time, we begin to accumulate a lot of different things. One camera's good at one thing, one camera's smaller, so you take it everywhere with you, but as you accumulate more gear, the liability of that gear and something going wrong with it grows. And that is where today's sponsor, Professional Photographers of America, also known as PPA, comes into play. As a member of PPA, you have up to $15,000 of gear insurance at a low monthly price. PPA also offers full gear replacement options with a flat $350 deductible. And they also offer data recovery services, so if you're like me and you have a bad habit of keeping too many files on your lacy hard drives, if one of those crashes, PPA can help you recover that data. And in addition to all that, PPA has business resources like model releases and cancellation letters, so you can check it out for yourself by going to the link in the description on today's video for a special discount. So whether you're just starting out or you're looking to take your business to the next level, Professional Photographers of America, also known as PPA, is where you need to be. So I just remembered one other thing that's absolutely incredible about this camera is the fact that it has a 1 terabyte of storage built into the body. Not once in any of these first impression tests have I put a memory card in this camera, and something that I really like about that is the fact that when you plug this camera in to get all the files off onto your drive or your computer, you're actually charging the camera simultaneously, and I found myself not having to plug the camera in as much because I would plug it in, transfer the files, and then just leave it plugged in and charge up the camera for the next time I was using it. So having that internal memory is really cool. Now onto the issue of price. The silver lining with the price of this camera is that I believe this is the future of photography. If you caught my last video, I talked about why photography is kind of in a little bit of a slump right now in terms of people's interest around it, and I think the future is going to be these medium format cameras becoming less expensive. Right now, yes, the Hasselblad X2D is like a Ferrari. It's just basically a perfect handcrafted machine, but I believe this technology will eventually trickle down to the point where these medium format sensors are available for much more affordable prices. this is such an upgrade compared to the previous version. If we give it another couple years, who knows what could come out in this medium format area, and I think it's going to be exciting for a lot of people to finally be able to experience the amazing quality that these cameras have to offer. So overall, my first impressions of this camera should be obvious. It's amazing, exactly what I expected it to be, even though a part of me is disappointed that for hobbyists out there, this technology just feels a little bit too expensive and too out of reach, and I'm hoping in the future it becomes something that is a little bit more readily available. But in the meantime, I hope you can enjoy me trying out this camera for the next couple months and can enjoy the content that I make with it. I personally am just very thankful to have the opportunity to do this, try out cameras like this, go out and make photos, make videos for y'all. So I hope you enjoy it. And if you ever have the opportunity to pick one of these up and try it for yourself, whether it's through a rental or just borrowing it, I definitely recommend it just for the experience, because it's that experience of this camera, just the whole overall package of having something that's relatively smaller, that produces incredible images, that's easy to use, that's also fun to use. It's something unique, and it's a breath of fresh air for me on this channel, and it's maybe why I'm in such a good mood making this video. I had a lot of fun with this one, and I'm excited to bring this out more with me in the upcoming months, so stay tuned for those videos. Drop a comment with your thoughts on this camera. If you enjoyed the video, hit the thumbs up button, and big thank you to Professional Photographers of America for sponsoring today's video. Remember, check the link in the description down below for a special offer from them. With that said, I'm gonna get out of here. I'll catch y'all in the next video.